Feel us to get that hang out today. So tell us about, what's been going on, what you experienced, and, tell us what's up.
So he still got it wrong because
I still got it wrong.
it was like 1995.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it would have been like 18.
Okay.
We lost 2 more years.
It's lost 2 more years, all right.
So
all right.
instead of a decade, now it's 12 years you lost.
Okay,
So.
okay.
But I've known Chris a long time. We've always stayed in touch, and he approached me. This is my first podcast ever, I guess you would say, doing this. I mean, I've done little 10-minute segments of, on the radio or something, sound bites or advertisements, and I invited Chris maybe a month and a half ago or so up to a presentation I had done over my one specific time or one specific slice in Iraq, and it was over a very specific project that we put together, arming our vehicles. Chris wants to put me back in Desert Storm, but Desert Storm was, I was 8th grade, 9th grade, Desert Storm, so it was actually Operation Iraqi Freedom. I was on the initial invasion, I guess you would call it, of Iraq. And then we had a lot of stuff went on, but I guess in the beginning, I started out as enlisted. When I joined primarily for just back then in the 90s, and everybody was going after college money, and that's why one of the reasons why I joined was my dad. My dad back then, they had 6 kids. Right? Not everybody could go to college, and even if they wanted to, you might have been the lucky one that either had the brains or got the money, right? And so my sister and myself were really the only ones that went to, I guess you would say, a formal university. Mm-hmm. I had another, Brian. He went on to trade school, and all my other brothers were trades and union carpenters, and my sister and I broke the mold.
Yeah.
You
guys are doing really well.
Ventured out, and I can go all my time before 18, but that's for different stuff. But I didn't necessarily join the military. I mean, I love our country. I wanted to escape where I was, right? I'm not saying my dad he wasn't able to support us, but it was rough, with 6 kids. And, there was no way that he was going to be able to pay, for me to go to college, and my sister. And so joined the military, be retired, Army, did the Vietnam era, and never made it over to Vietnam, but ended up serving, retiring out of the military. And then I joined primarily because of him, and then, enlisted. I knew that I wasn't one to be controlled really ever. So I knew if I would have went straight up active duty, I probably may not be sitting here today. It's a lot, when you're 4 years active duty, or, you make a career out of just active duty. So I knew that wasn't the path for me. I knew I wanted the direction, I wanted the guidance, I wanted the money, I wanted the structure, but I didn't want to be told what to do 24/7 for 4 years of my life when I was 18, 19, 20. So entered the reserves, came back, went to school, joined ROTC, graduated from SIU ROTC in 2000. And then I was literally the first class. So I graduated, I guess, December 2000, and 9 months later, a little over a year later, 9/11 happened, right? And that was kind of a surreal experience, right? 'Cause, we hadn't been attacked like that since really Pearl Harbor. Yeah.
So that was kind of the initiation of that conflict for the Operation Freedom. What is that called again? Operation Freedom Iraqi.
Yeah, Operation Iraqi Freedom was for Iraq, and then Afghanistan had a different name.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I didn't go to Afghanistan, just Iraq, but Afghanistan happened before Iraq. You know, they both didn't kick off at the same time.
Okay.
And then, so just to fast forward, I know for the sake of time. So here I was in 2000, graduated college, got my commission. Then I was set to go to school, right? I had to go to my officer basic course after I got out of college. And that wasn't slated to happen for some months after 2000. I graduated. So then I entered the workforce and I taught at a public school. And then I was there that year. So the school started in August, and then in that September, I guess the following September was when 9/11 happened. And then I remember being in the classroom, teaching, and then immediately began receiving, calls and everything. And then fast forward like 2-3 months later, you started hearing a lot of chatter, like, hey, you better, the Army's coming. The Army's coming for all that education money, And then by that time, I couldn't give it back. Right, I couldn't give it back and say,
I'm not going.
But and then after that, it was just like a domino snowball effect. And then next thing you know, the military is speeding up my timeline to go to officer basic course, and then go to officer basic course. I think I was class number 2 or 3. I think we were 2. So the class before us was really the first class after 9/11 to graduate. And then I was the second class that came in to graduate. And then when we arrived at OBC, they told us all that congratulations, that when you finish your training, you will be either going to Afghanistan or Iraq.
How old would you been?
Oh crap! 2003. You gotta knew you were making me do math on the show here.
Now, did you?
So in 2003, I would have been 26.
Were you married yet?
No.
You were not married yet.
Well, let me back up. So 2003, that was when I went. 2001, 9/11 happened, right? So after, like I said, 9/11, then they went to Afghanistan first, so that was a whole year, and then Iraq kicked off, about a year or so later. So 2002 is when I'm talking about all this kind of ramp up and the chatter and the noise and the build-up.
Yeah.
And then I think, if I remember correctly, don't quote me on dates, but I think September, October was when they officially invaded and kicked off Iraq in 2003.
I think so.
And then that's when we all started kind of mobilizing. But I had graduated that previous, I want to say July or August of that year. And then, so a funny story was, you asked about if I was married. So